Last time we talked, I showed you the infamous $12 smartwatch. But I closed it with saying that I would basically not recommend this thing. But instead, I have a different recommendation for a few dollars more, something that is far more practical. And that, my friends, is the Mi Band 3. Boop. In fact, you've probably heard about the Mi Band 3 yourself and noted some of its infamy as well for being one of the cheapest and best fitness bands that you can get on the market. Well, not just any market, because you can't really buy these in stores. You have to either go on Amazon, eBay, GearBest, Banggood, AliExpress, and the price range can go from anywhere to $20 to $35. I mean, I've even seen it in some places for $45. It just kind of depends on supply and demand, I guess. But yeah, usually in the high 20s, somewhere around there, you can pick one of these guys up. Which in the world of overpriced fitness bands is pretty darn good. But does it add up, and what would it really compare to? Well, let's get into it. First of all, let's go over some of the specs in this guy. It sports a 0.78-inch display, which is kind of tiny, which is kind of a good thing when you wear it. The resolution is 120 by 80 pixels. It is an AMOLED screen, which is touch sensitive and features a little kind of indented button area for kind of like a back button use or long press thing. It's cool. And then the top sort of swipes back and forth between options. Its connectivity is Bluetooth 4.2 even, and some models offer NFC support, which I just saw a NFC update on my phone last night, so I'm wondering if that's pushing out, better uses of it. I don't use NFC myself. I probably should, especially if this has it, which I'm not sure. I think mine has it. I don't know. I should look into these things. But some of them do, so watch out for that if that's what you're into. The weight is 20 grams, which is less than the amount of sugar in a serving size of Coca-Cola. The casing is plastic alloy and is sort of one of the downsides, but plus sides at the same time. The display is pretty nice looking. It's beautiful looking, in my opinion. I think it's like the simplicity is king in this thing. It's nice to look at. The screen sort of disappears into the encasement of it, so it just looks like there are numbers and information there instead of it being a small thin screen pushed into a wristwatch, which can look ugly, but they made it kind of blend in really well, so it just kind of looks like a little curvy, tiny spaceship of knowledge. That's a very weird description, but it's half coming from what my wife describes it as. So it being that cool looking, also there's one downside, is that the plastic scuffs very easily. I mean, this is on your wrist, you're probably gonna smack it against stuff, and not that it destroys the look, but it will get scuffy. Don't get me wrong, this thing is a tank and can handle pretty much anything you throw at it, especially for the fact that it's waterproof, and I mean properly waterproofed, to 50 meters. If you're 50 meters underwater, you've got other problems going on, to quote my friend Tom. And I think I've seen screen protectors out there for it, but due to the nature of the screen being curved, and I just don't imagine that ever working out well and looking good at all. So just bear in mind, it's gonna get a little scuffy. Moving right along to the battery, it is 110 milliamp hours, which sounds small, but due to the size of the screen and the fact that it's monochrome and the fact that it's OLED and only lights up the pixels needed, it can last a crazy long time. In fact, it's rated up to 20 days, but I never got it that far because I make full use of it. That's 20 days if you're not using the sleep tracking and the constant heart rate tracking, which, I mean, if the thing can do it, then I kind of want it to do that. So I average, now this is realistic averaging, so I have it set to monitor my heart rate every 10 minutes and full advanced sleep tracking at night. So this thing is pretty much always going. And I get around an average of 9 days or so per battery cycle. And in fact, the interesting thing is, the more I've used it, it seems like it's kind of worked itself into a gear. At first I was getting, like 5-6 days of battery life, Now I'm getting 9, and I didn't really change anything. It just kind of got into a better cycle of doing things, so that's cool. So even for fitness trackers, a lot of them only go up to a couple of days at best. This goes for the long haul. I charge it, a couple times a month, and I don't have to think about it, which is very nice. Now for the sensors and how well it actually tracks things. Decent. I'd say decent. I mean, it's kind of hard to compare. I mean, it's going to do a better job than if I tried to do it all day. And I think there is some room for error. I'd like to get a couple of these things maybe and try and see if they show the same reading throughout the day or not. But, I mean, honestly, how accurate are any of these? They're going to have some margin of error, and some are a little better than others, but for the price, I think it does a fantastic job. It does show fairly consistent results, at least for me, and you do have to make sure you wear these properly. My wife has a much smaller wrist than me and can barely fit the thing on, so sometimes her readings are a little off. So if you have small wrists, sometimes the notches in between do not help. It's either too big on her wrist or too tight, and she'd rather not wear it because of that. But when you start getting larger wrists like me, then it doesn't really matter. You can kind of fit it and it'll be fine. But that's a thing. So yeah, I found that it's somewhat consistent throughout the day. I get a lot of information that makes sense when I review it. If I was walking a bit, I'll see my heart rate go up a little bit if I'm just sitting around not doing much. There's that too. And then it compiles it in the end and gives you, how much fat you burned, how far you walked, and all that stuff. And throughout the time when reviewing the calendar, it looks right. I mean, you're not going to base solid scientific evidence. You're not going to use these as official records or anything, but it gives you a good idea of how you're doing and your progress if you're trying to monitor these things, and I think it does a good job of that. The sleep tracker is interesting. I think it works well. In my experience, I don't sleep very well at all, and it tells you how deep your sleep is and how much light sleep you got, and the parts where you woke up in the middle of the night. And when looking back, I mean, there's sometimes I did wake up in the middle of the night and didn't remember until I looked at it. I'm like, oh yeah, I was kind of awake then. Then you start making different choices to get better sleep, and it kind of helps you get into that mindset about what things you can change and when you had good sleep, what you did then, so that you can repeat it. And there were times I woke up and felt great, and I'm like, oh yeah, I did sleep more that night. I mean, these are more for this tracking information is to help you better understand yourself and your cycles and things like that. And I think that's useful. I think that's important. And the fact that some fitness bands' battery life is so poor that you can't even sleep with it is a testament to how good these things are. I mean, this is so light. It's 20 grams. That's light. I barely notice that it's on my wrist, and I get bothered by watches and things like that. I'd love to wear watches more, but they bother me because of how heavy and tight and just uncomfortable they are. But I can wear this all the time and almost never realize it. So that in itself is cool. That is well worth $30 or more, especially when you compare it to the common comparative fitness band for features would be the Fitbit Charge 2, which kind of offers a similar screen experience and similar features minus the GPS. The Charge 2 has GPS features, the Mi Band 3 does not. But the Fitbit Charge 2 is also $120 or more, and the battery life is significantly worse. So the value trade-off is kind of not there. Another thing that the Xiaomi Mi Band 3 also does is text alerts, which is cool. You can't reply to it in case that's important to you, but if your phone is in your pocket, or if it's away from you, or you can't use it like you're driving or in a meeting or something, you will get to read text messages that come through on the band, which is really nice. It's a very skinny display, so that does kind of have a weird scroll and fit things on there, but what are you going to do? The screen is small. What are you going to complain about? It works and you can read it, and that's fine by me. It also has call alerts, so if you're getting called by someone, it'll get sent to your wrist and let you know who's calling. And you can even reject the call by tapping on the little indented button, which is also very handy. So that is also well worth the price. Now, the thing to note about the text and call rejection features is that doesn't work 100% of the time. That could be improved. It's not terrible, but there is quite a few times I'll get texts or calls and never get notified on my wristband. And I think that depends on how many times you sync up to the app throughout the day, because sometimes it'll give you the alert like, hey, you need to reconnect to phone. Even though you're connected, you just need to resync up to the app. And the app is another topic of discussion to get into. I find it to be rather robust. There's a lot of information on there, and you get the feeling that it was developed by engineers, because it can be a little convoluted sometimes. Not everything is where you would expect it to be, and some of the information is broken up in ways that I just don't see necessary, and I feel like they could have consolidated some more space on there. But after a while, you can get used to it, and it is a good app. There is a lot of features on there. It's just, I feel like it could be designed in a little more cohesive manner. Now, from the app, you control things like alarms, if you want to have a wake-up alarm. Oh yeah, I didn't even mention, this has a vibrate feature. So if you were wondering how you get the messages, it'll vibrate on your wrist and warn you, and that's another cool thing. But you can also use that for alarms throughout, to wake you up. Say you're married or you have a partner or whatever, and you don't want to wake them up, and this thing will vibrate and wake just you up instead of everyone in the whole house. So that's a nice feature. Now, what was I saying? Where were we? The app. What about the app? Oh yeah, and weather. So this will also give you the weather forecast for the next 3 days, which is pretty nice. And that's usually when you know it needs to be connected, because there'll be a little cloud with a little X in it, like, hey, reconnect so we can tell you the weather. That kind of thing. So the app is decent, and that's how all of Xiaomi's fitness bands connect to, or what all of Xiaomi's fitness bands connect to, including the Xiaomi Amazfit line. Now those I want to tap into another time, because those are probably the step up from this. They're a little more expensive, but they're a little more feature rich and have a few more interesting things to offer. But as for the best budget fitness tracker in the world, it's got to be the Mi Fit 3. Oh, side note, so it has a workout mode in it. So if you want even more detailed analytics of how you did, you can just tap the thing and you enter workout mode. So then it'll give you a better readout of your heart rate and your total calories burned and distance and whatever. It'll just monitor you a lot heavier. So I decided to go 12 hours under workout mode to see what it would come up with. And 12 hours happens to be the limit of how much memory it can retain. If you have more than a 12-hour workout, you're crazy. But anyway, I just lived my life the way I normally would live, and it was interesting. All total through those 12 hours, I burned over 2,100 calories, which sounds about right. I mean, it's what you're kind of supposed to consume in a day, right? I'd probably do more than that. Anyway, that's enough of that. Xiaomi Mi Fit 3, great product. Love it. I'd get more if I had more wrists. Oh wait. There we go. 2? Is that excessive? So let me know what you think in the comments below. Would you get this? Do you already have one? The link in the description will take you to where you can get it. And also, I'll probably throw a few more links in there to get cool different bands kind of like this one. Because turns out they make a lot of bands for these things, which is kind of cool to, spice things up. And that's it for me. Let me know what you think of this. Anyway, subscribe if you haven't, leave a like, and I'll see you in the next one. I hope, if you come back. Please come back. I mean, you know I love you, right? You made it this far. There's gotta be something.